What's good? It's Divine Sense Boxing in the building. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay. If you can, just leave me a thumbs up in the chat. I know there are several different channels going live around this time. I caught Drew Titan, I caught a little bit of 78, and it's a hot button topic right now. A much anticipated fight that a lot of us, including myself, was really looking forward to. Earl Spence versus Manny Pacquiao has now been officially declared canceled. I was live yesterday talking about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and I told everybody that was in that particular live stream that I will be talking about this situation that's going on between Earl Spence and Pacquiao. And so here I am. The main reason why I wanted to take some time to think about it and wait is because I wanted to make sure that all of the details and everything that's coming about is legit, and I wanted to make sure that I reported it accurately, and I wanted to see what people would say. I like to come in sometimes during the aftermath of people's disappointment and people's frustration, allow the trolls to show themselves, and I like to come in and just kind of come in during the aftermath, and this is what I'm doing. Felix was good to see you. WJ, thanks for dropping by. I know you watched Drew Titan as well. Thanks for taking the time out to come to my stream as well. So the question is, just like the title of the live stream, what happened? And another question that must be asked to maintain complete and utter transparency: is Earl Spence truly injured, or is he ducking Pacquiao? Because that is the question that is being asked all over social media, all over YouTube. And I haven't even made a video about it. This is the first time I'm speaking about the fight being canceled, but I'm having a lot of Pacquiao supporters start to go to other videos that I've made about Pacquiao and Spence and basically attacking me and attacking Earl Spence for being a ducker, for purposefully getting out of the fight, and things like that. So this is something that's happening right now as I'm making this live stream. Pacquiao fans are in full attack mode. So that's the question that we're going to have, and we're going to discuss it. We're going to dive into it and see if, in fact, Spence is truly hurt or not. Obviously, we don't know the exact medical details. Right? The only way we're going to know for absolute certainty is if Earl Spence live streams when he's getting his eye surgery. Would that suffice? Would that make people happy? Would that make people understand and believe that Earl Spence is indeed injured? I mean, is this what it's come to? Is this the point that we have reached? And a lot of people are comparing the Fury situation or the Ryan Garcia situation and other boxers to Earl Spence, and putting Earl Spence in the same box, I guess you can say, by calling him a ducker. But I just don't believe that it's the same. How could it be the same? When an injury is an injury, and that's just what it is. Now, here's the thing. There's a few key elements that I look for when fights like this are canceled. And one thing I look for is anything that is spoken about in regards to a doctor or getting surgery or things like that. I look for that because that says a lot. The reason why that says a lot is because media can latch onto that and hold a fighter more accountable for, stepping out of a fight. And I believe Earl Spence was getting surgery today. Later today, I believe he's getting surgery. So it's going to be kind of hard for him to completely make this up when, of course, media is going to be hunting him down to get a follow-up on his surgery and things like that. It's not going to take long for media to know what hospital he went to and if he recovered or is recovering or if the surgery went well and things like that. Big networks like ESPN and others they're going to find that stuff out very quickly. And if they cannot get that information because Spence is ducking, then it's going to be seen very quickly, like tomorrow quickly. But I want to remind people that an eye injury is very serious. It's a very serious injury. And it doesn't surprise me at all that if Earl Spence did in fact have his eye jacked up, that a doctor 9 times out of 10 is always going to say, that's it, especially in a combat sport. We're not talking about a toe. We're not talking about a finger. We're not talking about a knee. We're not talking about a shoulder. Okay, there's two things that is usually, or two parts of the body that is usually a no-go 9 times out of 10. And that is eyes and neck. Those two parts of the body is pretty much like no-fly zone. Because it's just too dangerous. So like I said, if Spence is lying and he's truly ducking, we're going to find out very soon. He can't hide the truth when he said that he's going to have surgery today. Now, I want to share something with you guys because, it's part of me updating you guys on what is, being said out there. But before I do that, let me go ahead and just pull up this article just to get everyone up to speed. I'm sure we all know about the news, but just to give you guys a perspective on another article that has been written about this situation. Okay. So this is ringtv.com. All right. It's one of my preferred websites to go to when it comes to news. I've been going to Ring TV for like 15 years, ringtv.com. So I'll just briefly read over this real quick, and let's see what kind of information that Ring TV has put out. Headline: Earl Spence pulls out of fight with torn retina. Manny Pacquiao to fight Yordenis Ugas instead, which I'll talk about that as well here in a moment. All right, Earl Spence has withdrawn from the pay-per-view showdown with Manny Pacquiao due to a retinal tear in his left eye. Left eye. Okay, so left eye means that he is sparring with southpaws, preparing for the fight. Looks like he's getting hit with the right hook. If he did in fact injure it in sparring, which is the most plausible scenario. I believe he probably got it hurt in sparring. It's probably a wear and tear situation. And there are some people saying, why would you spar so close to a fight? It's 10 days away. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's been sparring that close to a fight. He could have injured his eye 3 weeks ago and didn't know it. You get hit in the face. I mean, fighters get blood clots in their brain and don't know it. And they find out weeks later and they have brain bleeding and they pass out. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just don't know. It might be a little bit swollen, might be a little bit, a little bit cloudy, maybe sore. When your eyeball's moving around in your socket when you're looking around the room, it can hurt. But boxers are always hurt. I've said this before, where boxers throughout history enter fights with many different kinds of injuries. This is nothing new. But like I said, there's two parts of the body that is always a no-fly zone, and that is eyes and neck. If those two parts of the body are injured, or I guess you can say back as well, but I know fighters that had spinal injuries and still fought. But you hardly ever hear of fighters going into a fight with neck injuries and eye injuries. We'll go ahead and keep reading here. As a result, Pacquiao will instead face WBA welterweight title holder Ugas on August 21st. So the date is the same. Nothing's changed with the date. The torn retina was discovered during a pre-fight medical examination. See, this is another key point that people have to understand. It was discovered during a pre-fight medical examination, right? So once again, there's an accountability here. So not only can the media and boxing fans hold Earl Spence accountable because he said that he's going to get surgery, which can be followed up, but also pre-fight medical examination. So there has been a medical examination. This is the information that has filtered out through the media. So then you have two parts of accountability here where media and boxing fans can follow up. This isn't a Tyson Fury situation where, he got COVID and, we see him out in the public 4 days later. This is a completely different situation. When Fury said he got COVID, there was literally zero accountability. Zero, because there was nothing. There was no clarity. It's not an injury. You know what I'm saying? It's a sickness. Okay, it's a sickness, but without some type of without some type of clarification and certification or some type of document saying, yeah, this is him testing positive. He didn't, and that's not hard to supply and show the public. It's a little piece of paper that you get when you test positive. I mean, it's very, very simple. And that was never shown. When you test for a virus or you have a bacterial infection, it's not hard for doctors to write something up and say, yeah, this is what you have. No different than if you get the flu or COVID or anything else in normal society. You go to the doctor, you get a doctor's note, you present it to your boss, and you take sick leave, right? That never happened with Fury. So with Spence, this is an injury, not a sickness. Much more difficult to fake. Much more difficult. The torn retina was discovered during a pre-fight medical examination that was conducted for the Nevada State Athletic Commission on Monday. Spence is scheduled for surgery on Wednesday and is expected to return to the ring. Now, I don't really think that Spence will ever fight again this year. I think it's over for him. And obviously, I wish him Godspeed and a speedy recovery. But I think he's done for 2021, and that's sad. That's sad because an injury like this, you've got to take all precautions. And even if the surgery is successful, um, not only do you have to make sure that everything is working well, but you also have to make sure your confidence is there as well. Because when you get an eye injury, it affects your confidence. It's no different than a boxer having his orbital bone broken, and it affects his vision. That's something that you have to overcome mentally as well. So there's a lot of factors involved other than just the surgery aspect of it. So I don't think we'll see him in 2021. I'll be surprised if we do. A quote from Earl Spence here is, "Unfortunately, the doctors found a tear in my left eye, and said I needed to get surgery on it ASAP, and that there was no way I could fight with my eye in that condition. I'd like to apologize to everyone," said Spence, who vowed on Twitter to face the Pacquiao-Ugas winner. He said on Twitter, "We've come back from worse," referring to the 2009 car accident that he had that nearly cost him his life and his career. Pacquiao said in a quote that, "Thank God his physical examination discovered his eye condition before he suffered any further damage," said Pacquiao. So that's pretty much it. That's from Ring TV. Let me do a real quick roll call for all those people that are in the chat now. We've got Felix, as I said, WJ, as always. Jaron Davis was good. Winners train, losers complain. Always good to see you. Lennar, I know you're totally gobsmacked at this situation and very disappointed. It says, "Sad what happened. Was really looking forward to this fight, but if it's true, prayers to Spence for his eyes." Like, real talk, health first, family first. Boxing fans can rant and rave and curse Spence out and call him a ducker and he's worthless and this and that. No, he's afraid of a 42-year-old Pacquiao. All this crazy shit that I've been reading online. But at the end of the day, these boxing fans, they're not going to be there for you when your career is over. They don't care about you. You got to look out for your safety, your health, your family, and you got to make the right decision. Razor was good. Always good to see you, man. Cristiano was good, man. Yet another postponement. Boxing is really letting us down. I think we're going to move on to other sports like women's baseball. You mean softball, because women don't play baseball, as far as I know. Or maybe you're saying that on purpose. 2021 has definitely been a very disappointing year. There's no doubt about it. With the postponement of Fury Wilder and all the COVID stuff that we've had to go through, and fights that have been postponed and canceled. And like we always say, as boxing fans, we're like battered women, and we keep coming back for more and continue to get battered. It is very disappointing. It is very disappointing. To the point where when I first heard the news, I didn't want to believe it. Really didn't want to believe it. I'm like, fake news. So I slept on it. And lo and behold, it was true. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew that Spence would be attacked. And this is his Twitter account. The Twitter that the tweets, I guess you can say, that he tweeted saying, "We went to 3 different doctors, all said the same thing. I'll be back for the winner for sure." And the comments are just astounding. One guy saying, who's obviously a Filipino, I can tell by his name, First, Crawford did not want to fight Manny, and now it's Earl Spence. They're afraid of a 42-year-old boxer. So disappointed. Pac-Man will retire after Yuga's fight. Now, here's the thing, is I understand that Pacquiao fans are disappointed because, they feel like Pacquiao doesn't have much time left and they want to see him do great things before he, officially retires for good. And they were excited about this fight. They felt that Pacquiao had a chance to shock the world and beat Earl Spence and, be a champion again. And, he's always been a champion, but, win more belts and have an opportunity to be the undisputed welterweight champion again. And so when something like this happens, it kind of crushes those dreams and hopes in a way. But nobody knows the future, man. Like, I get it. He's 42 years old. As much as we try to push age to the side, it is relevant. And so all of a sudden it becomes a question, okay, he fights Yugas. If he gets past Yugas, then what? When is Earl Spence going to be ready? We don't know. Will Pacquiao fight Crawford? We don't know. And when you're 42 years old, there's just not a lot of time left. You know what I mean? So I understand the sentiment. I understand that Pacquiao fans are frustrated that this has happened. But I want people to understand that boxing fans are suffering on all sides. It doesn't matter who you're a fan of. Boxing is suffering. Right? And I'm not necessarily an Earl Spence fan or a Pacquiao fan, but as a boxing fan, I was really looking forward to this fight. And this is why boxing is where it is right now. Why boxing is in this kind of state. Because we're so fixated and concerned about arguing and fighting and having these disputes and being racist and being closed-minded. And you forget the very essence of why you're a boxing fan. And that's because you're supposed to love the sport. You're supposed to want to see the best fights. And we, in boxing fans, have been tainted by this idea that boxers are duckers and cowards and pussies and all this different stuff where injuries do happen. This stuff happens. It's a gladiatorial sport. Broken hands happen in sparring before fights. Hyperextended knees, twisted ankles, broken fingers, jacked up necks. All this different stuff, this stuff happens. And obviously you try to be as careful as you possibly can, but it happens. TS Boxing says, for some reason, this fight didn't get me up out of my seat. Anyway, I don't care about Yugas either. I'll be straight up and honest with you, man. I think Pacquiao's going to destroy Yugas. I think Yugas he'll make the fight interesting because of his style. But he's just not Earl Spence. He doesn't have the same abilities that Earl Spence has when it comes to controlling range, being more composed, a vicious body attack, and many other things. So it's going to be entertaining for as long as it lasts, in my opinion. And I'll talk a little bit more of that as we go along here. Big shout out to Big Dog Willie for the super chat, man. I appreciate you as always. Noticing the Fury nut huggers trying to compare the two situations. Fury pulled out of the fight for being stupid. Spence actually has a real injury. And that's what I was saying, is that you can't compare the two. If you guys just joined the live stream, make sure you guys are hitting that like button as soon as you come in. Automatic, smash that like button. But this is what I was trying to explain to people. You can't compare a supposed COVID situation and an actual eye injury And there's two parts of this injury that is very important to recognize, and that is it was a pre-fight examination, okay, which means the Nevada State Commission is held accountable for the examination and suggesting that Spence should not fight. Then Spence flew to Dallas and got some more opinions. And in the end, it was decided that, yeah, your eye is torn and you shouldn't fight, because if you do, basically, you might go blind in that eye. And this is not a far-fetched idea. This happens. So is his vision health, is it worth it? Does he have to sacrifice his vision to pacify disgruntled and angry Pacquiao fans? What are you guys so angry about? Your man's going to be a Hall of Famer regardless. Win or lose, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he's had a hell of a career. What are you guys getting so upset about? The man's 42 years old. You know what I mean? Like, and he is trying to set an example, and he wishes Errol Spence a speedy recovery. And he's trying to do the right thing, the humble thing. And you fans don't even follow that example that he's trying to set. That shows how ignorant and stupid you really are. Well, big shout out to Big Dog Willie, man. Felix says, damn, at this point, I'll be surprised if we even get Crawford versus Porter either. 2021 has been a fail for boxing. Big fail. A big fail. And some of it is unfortunate. Like in this situation, it's unfortunate and unlucky situation. And then you got bullshit stuff with Fury and Wilder and the saga that has been going on since 2018, going into late 2021. That's 3 years. And unfortunately, it falls into a timeline where we're dealing with COVID as well. And it's convenient for certain people like Fury to claim that they have COVID. And we're starved from these fights as boxing fans. And some people say, well, shit, man, I'm tired of boxing, man. I'm going to go over and watch UFC. Well, go watch UFC then. But for some of us, we're boxing fans. You know what I mean? This is the sport that we love. I watch UFC on occasion. You know what I mean? On occasion. But my love is for boxing. So if you want to leave boxing and go to UFC, go. But for some of us, it ain't that easy, because this is a sport that we've grown up with and have loved and adored. You know what I mean? And this is what's happening. And it's very tough to swallow. And what really gets at me is the simple fact that it doesn't matter, as I said, on what side you stand on or who your favorite fighter is. All boxing fans are being hit by this, are being affected by this. So what's the point? Like some of these tweets that I got up here on the screen. Some of these tweets right here. This guy saying, first Crawford did not want to fight Manny, and now Errol Spence doesn't want to fight Manny. They're all afraid of a 42-year-old boxer. So disappointed. Pac-Man will retire after Yuga's fight. And all that's saying is that, damn, you know, I'm disappointed because Pacquiao had a chance to shock the world and now he doesn't, and he's going to retire. And so thank you, Spence. Well, no, not thank you, Spence. It should be, damn, this sucks. Life happens. I wish Errol Spence a speedy recovery, but Pacquiao's had a great career, and it is what it is. That's what you should be tweeting. That's what you should be tweeting. You get other tweets saying here, oh, you didn't want to lose your damn, you had to age him even more. Even Floyd, like, WTF. After someone read him the news, one guy says, laugh out loud. 3 doctors in one day? Really? Our healthcare system ain't that good, even when you are wealthy. This was a part of the PBC's plan the whole time to get 2 PBC fights for the price of one. Lame as fuck. I mean, the memes, these people are angry. These people are really angry on Earl Spence's Twitter. And just browsing through here, there's a few people in support of Spence, but it's really mostly just people that are just angry. Look at this guy, Earl Chicken Spence Jr. I mean, it's just riddled with these type of with these tweets replying to Earl Spence, man. And it's really sad. It's really sad. At the end of the day, Pacquiao's still going to fight on the same day. Nothing has changed. It's just not Earl Spence. And Ugas is not going to be an easy out, by the way. It's not a cakewalk. It's not a Joshua Clottey situation. All right, this guy's going to come in and try to win the fight. I guarantee you that. But, you know, Pacquiao should win, and I think he'll win in exciting fashion. But another sad element to this is the welterweight division is just so, it just seems like it's taken forever to get an undisputed welterweight champion. With all the talent in the division, it's just so frustrating since basically these guys have been fighting each other. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, Earl Spence, all these guys fighting each other over the years since like 2000 and what, 16, 17, something like that. You know, because Danny moved up from 140 and some other fighters moved up from 140, but it just feels like it's just taken forever. And it's frustrating. It's no different than the middleweight division and wanting Canelo to unify the title. It's like, it just seems like an impossible task. Tom says, what's up, chat? Good to see you, Tom, man. Always, as always, EK Experience. What's good? Bolsero Loco. Spence is a legacy fight. That's what upsets boxing fans. I mean, I get that. But the man tore his eyeball. What do you want him to do, Bolsero? Huh? Go into the fight, ignore the doctors, go blind in his left eye so Pacquiao can get his glory? Are you going to send money to Earl Spence's family? You don't give a shit about Earl Spence because if you make a comment like that, you don't care about Earl Spence and his health, like just straight up. This isn't about Spence. This is about Mayweather Jr. Pacquiao disciples are only interested to outdo Floyd. Very interesting point there. So true. It's ignorant how Pac fans love bragging about Pac's class and humbleness and then turn around and act like barbarians and exhibit racism and trolling behavior. Just senseless and tone deaf. Facts. Neither Crawford nor Spence ducked Pacquiao. They both called out Pacquiao for years. Big facts. Big facts. I remember Spence calling out Pacquiao, like, man, since like 2015. On multiple occasions. I would love to fight Pacquiao. I love to fight Pacquiao. And now, Pacquiao at 42 had finally aligned himself to fight Earl Spence, and the unfortunate has happened, but then it's Spence's fault. Like, really? But back to Big Dog Willie's comment here. They are, for real. They are so concerned and fixated about outdoing Floyd in his career because, to be quite honest, they have never accepted and have never been able to stomach the fact that Floyd beat Pacquiao. As a matter of fact, my very first video that I made about Pacquiao and Spence, I spent about 3 or 4 minutes in the beginning of that video of me explaining that this fight is much more than just Pacquiao Spence. This fight is much more than legacy. It's much more than, Pacquiao being 42 and having the opportunity to reclaim glory. This has a lot to do with Floyd, because it's a feather in Pacquiao fans' cap. And that is, if Pacquiao goes in and beats Spence, they feel like that puts Pacquiao back in the level playing field with Floyd, because Pacquiao beat a man that Floyd never fought. Because Spence called out Floyd and Pacquiao on numerous occasions. Floyd never fought Spence, but Pacquiao fights him, beats him. Then it's like, they feel like, oh, we're even now kind of thing. And, you don't have to accept that, but that's fact. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. That's fact. Because they've never accepted that Floyd beat Pacquiao. Like, for me, it's not a big deal, because those of you who know me from years past, like Cristiano that's in the chat right now, I told people for years, since like 2010 until they fought, that Mayweather wins this fight. No problem. I probably made like 30 videos talking about it, breaking down the fight stylistically, showing people, like, on the camera, like, this is what Mayweather's going to do, X, Y, and Z. And he did it. He did exactly what I said he was going to do. And so for me, it's like, it wasn't like, oh, a sigh of relief. It was just like, yeah, I knew that. And for me, it was a moment of, okay, will Pacquiao fans give Floyd credit? Will they give him credit and move on and, continue to support Pacquiao and just move on? But no, they couldn't. They couldn't. Years after the fight, they're talking about it, calling Floyd a runner and a chicken and this and that and whatever have you. Even though Pacquiao moves on and starts winning fights and moving on and doing his thing, and they still couldn't let it go. Even today, they hate the fact that Pacquiao might retire with a loss on his record to Mayweather and not being able to somehow salvage that loss by beating someone like Spence or Crawford. 2 men that Floyd, will never fight. Let's be honest. He'll never, Floyd's done. If it's not a charity fight, he's done. So this goes much deeper. Every time I read comments from the recent Pacquiao videos, there's always Pactards bringing up Floyd. It's been 6 years and these losers are still sore. Bolsero back at it. I wonder how you guys, Earl fanboy, would say if Manny who canceled the fight. If Manny hurt his eyeball, it was tore. Okay, I'm hoping that you can understand me clearly. All right. if Pacquiao tore his retina and doctors suggested that he should step out of the fight because if not, he might go blind, because that's essentially what will happen. I can't speak for other people, but for me, I would be like, yeah, well, shit happens. You know what I mean? It's disappointing. Rather, it doesn't matter who's the person that is stepping out of the fight. If there's an injury and they said it was a pre-examination by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and there were other doctors who gave their opinion and the fighter says, I'm getting surgery on this day, that provides accountability. I would be upset, but I would say, shit happens. So for me, it doesn't matter. So I hope that answers your question. It wasn't a question. It was more of a remark, but I answered it anyway. Freddie says, I'm gutted. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Jaron says, Pactar simply because they've been at it for years. I mean, yeah, it's part of their DNA at this point. Snacks, salute Divine Sense Reborn and the chat. Good to see you, man. I saw you over there on Drew Titan. I'm glad that you were able to make my live as well. Pacquiao actually, during the Spence and Pacquiao press conference, brought up Mayweather Jr.'s name and called him a runner. Yeah, that actually was a bit shocking because he wanted to make it crystal clear. He wanted to make it crystal clear to the world, basically, during the press conference that, oh, Spence is better than Mayweather because Spence will fight toe-to-toe. He'll make an exciting fight. But Mayweather, he just ran. And that just never sat well with me. Like, if fans say that if fans say that Floyd ran the whole fight, like, whatever. Okay, because most fans don't know anything about boxing. They're going to support their man, and they were hoping that Floyd would engage and fight toe-to-toe because it gives Pacquiao a better possibility to knock him out, which is what they wanted to see. But boxing is hit and not get hit. That is the sweet science. So if you don't understand the basics and the foundations of boxing, then you can never have a conversation with me anyways, and I keep it moving. But that's the fans. I can just shake my head and keep it moving. But when it's Pacquiao himself that says Floyd was running, and that's why Earl Spence is better. This is why I have a problem with that. Number one, you're an all-time great, Manny Pacquiao. Let it go. Let it go. All great fighters in history have taken losses. It's really not that big of a deal. I know you really wanted to win. I know you wanted to do it for the Philippines and represent your country, and you hated Floyd Mayweather for forcing the random blood test. I understand. I understand you really, really, really wanted to win, but you lost. And you lost convincingly. You got outboxed. And to hear you say this 6 years later is very sad. That you still believe that you lost because Floyd was quote unquote running. Well, I thought it was your shoulder that was hurt. I mean, which one is it? 6 years later, why are you even talking about Mayweather? Why, like, I don't care if the commentator or whoever was holding the press conference and asking questions. I don't care if they ask you about Floyd. It's simple. Oh, Floyd happened then and it's over. And I moved on and I got a great champion in front of me with Earl Spence. And I'm looking forward to the fight. That's it. That's how an unsalty, all-time great champion responds to a question This isn't something that happened 6 months ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago. This is 6 years down the road. And you making me feel like the only reason why you want to beat Spence is because you want to avenge the loss against Mayweather. Let it go. It's not like your legacy is in question just because you lost to Mayweather. Mayweather's just a better fighter. It's not that big of a deal. Sugar Ray Robinson lost to Gene Fullmer. Sugar Ray Robinson lost to Jake LaMotta. Joe Louis lost fights. Muhammad Ali lost fights. The great champions lost fights, but they're still all-time greats. I know you wanted to win really, really bad, but you lost. Anyway, I'm glad that you at least had the respect to say, I hope Errol Spence recovers and leave it at that. And now you can go focus on Yugas. But in regards to Floyd, like it just never sat with me well at all. And I just want the thing that gets me the most is you had 5 years to prepare. You had 5 years to prepare. You worked alongside with Eric Morales, I remember. You had all the best sparring partners. You had people in there imitating the shoulder roll. You said on interviews for years, especially once the fight was signed, you were telling people, oh, I got the shoulder roll figured out. I'm going to knock Floyd Mayweather out. I'm too quick. I'm too fast. I'm too powerful. You and Freddie Roach, supremely confident up until fight night. You had 5 years to prepare a game plan to beat Floyd. And so you can't say like, oh, hey, I wasn't in my prime. You're 42. You're about to fight Errol Spence. You're too old for Floyd, but you ain't too old for Errol Spence? Come on, man. And the thing is that if you want to criticize Floyd for his out-of-the-ring antics and the Jake Paul fiasco and Conor McGregor, like, I'm with you. I'm with you on it. Cool. Like, you don't have to like it. I get that. But Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, fought a real fight. And both of them had equal time to prepare, and the better man won. And that's the end of the story. So, Pacquiao fans, you got to let it go. I understand you really wanted to see Floyd lose. I get it. Ferdy says, if Floyd ran the whole fight, why didn't Manny just walk him down and walk right in? Facts. Every time Pac loses, he seems to always have an excuse on deck. We can't rock with that. Absolutely not. My shoulder hurt. And I remember when you guys remember like a week or so after the fight, they interviewed Mayweather. Who was that? Who interviewed him? It was like a big interview, a Showtime or something. But they asked Floyd, like, do you think his shoulder was hurt? And Mayweather was like, absolutely not. This dude was trying to knock me out, like straight up. And I've seen that fight at least a dozen times. Slow-mo, normal speed, commentary, no commentary, in Spanish, in English. I've seen it every which way possible. And just straight up, man, Floyd outboxed him, man. Like, if you're a true fan of the sport, Like, come on, man. And to be honest with you, this wasn't even close to like a Floyd and Oscar De La Hoya situation. Floyd and Oscar De La Hoya was way closer and way more competitive than Floyd and Pacquiao. Manny and his fans will never let it go right after the fight. Only thing they could say is Floyd ran. I mean, it's crazy. Pacquiao's legacy is overall better than Mayweather's, but all these diehard Pacquiao fans, not so much boxing fans, can only think of Mayweather. It's a shame. Yeah, that's true. That is so true. And I think Christiana, you and I, we can agree to disagree as far as the legacy, but I do agree with you on the fact that all Pacquiao fans can think about is Mayweather. Like deep down, like right now, they're upset at Spence, right? They're really upset at Spence because Spence, in their mind, dropped out 10 days before the fight. He's ducking, he's running, he's scared. But the deep-rooted pain and frustration stems back to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Like, I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what it is. Because if Pacquiao beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. and this scenario will happen, yeah, they might be disappointed, but they're going to be way much more calm, cool, and collected because they're going to feel like Pacquiao's legacy is cemented regardless because he beat Floyd. The dude was, Floyd Money Mayweather, undefeated. And Pacquiao was the man that took his O, right? So back to Cristiano's point, he's saying like, it's a shame that when we talk about legacy, the only thing that matters to them is Floyd. But have you forgot about the things that Pacquiao's done in his career? Have you forgot about the wars with Morales and Marquez and Barrera? And the things that he's done, like fighting Miguel Cotto and Margarito, and I mean, the list goes on. Like, let it go, man. Hopla, what's good, man? Always good to see you in the chat. Maybe he meant better as in better for him and his style or better for the fans. Running gets thrown around too much, though. You're right about that. It definitely gets run. So what? So Floyd's a runner. Pernell Whitaker's a runner. Willie Pep was a runner. Erislandy Lora was or is a runner. Sergio Martinez was a runner. I mean, the list goes on. Muhammad Ali in his prime, was he a runner too? When he beat Sonny Liston's ass behind the jabbing his face off. I mean, he literally beat Sonny Liston with a jab, a 1-2, and a 1-2-3, as in a jab straight right and a left hook. That's how he beat Sonny Liston. He beat Sonny Liston with 3 punches, bouncing around and moving around the ring. Pop, 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 move. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Is that running? Is that running, Pacquiao? That's a sweet science, if you ask me. Snacks B says his shoulder was hurt because he was swinging and missing the whole night. Well, they said, I heard it like a week or two before the fight, and they said something about, I wanted to get an injection in my shoulder, but the commission wouldn't allow me. You're damn right they wouldn't allow you to. You're damn right. And how many times was Floyd Mayweather said on record, right, that he walked into fights with messed up hands? He's broken his hands in fights. Floyd has. But you see, Pacquiao fans will twist that too. They say, why is Mayweather allowed to use an injection in his hands before a fight, but Pacquiao can't do it for his shoulder? Well, probably because they felt that his shoulder really wasn't that injured. Many will forever be compared with Floyd. They were the two best of their era. It's like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. I mean, yeah, like I get it. Like, yeah. But they fought though, Freddie. They fought, and Floyd won. That's the point. And Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, they played one against one another. Tom Brady got the upper hand most times, and Tom Brady, when it's all said and done, is going to get the nod over Peyton Manning, even though Peyton Manning did extraordinary things in his career. He did things that Tom Brady never did. But at the end of the day, Tom Brady, when it came down to it, it comes down to Super Bowls, right? And it comes down to when they faced off one another, Tom Brady got the upper hand. And I'm not a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning expert, or a football expert for that matter, but I know at least that much. That whole running narrative is super, in caps, weak. Just weak fighters trying to manipulate tremendously skilled ones to relinquish their abilities to give them a chance to knock them out. Just weak. Like, hey, just stand here in front of me so I can knock you out. Like, are you seriously expecting Floyd Mayweather to fight you toe to toe in exchange with a fighter who has arguably the fastest hands in boxing history, who has destroyed fighters who try to stand in the middle of the ring and exchange with him? Are you kidding me? One of the most masterful boxers that we've ever seen. You think he's going to take that chance? No. You had 5 years to prepare for it. You knew damn good and well that Floyd was going to fight behind the jab, use the shoulder roll, check left hook you, turn you, spin you, cut off the ring, and force you to not set your feet so you can't land your fast combinations. You knew that that's what he was going to do, and you couldn't make the adjustments after 5 years of practice. The nerve of boxing fans, they were pissed at Floyd for being Manny when they should have been upset at Manny for not figuring out Floyd and pulling off the win. Exactly. I remember the years before Pacquiao Mayweather, all the Pactards were bragging how Pacquiao has all of these advantages, not realizing how bad it will look if Manny loses. Exactly. He's too fast. He's too fast. You remember that, Cristiano? You remember that shit? He's too fast. He's too fast. Floyd can't deal with the speed. He can't deal with the speed. Timing beats speed. Accuracy beats speed. Controlling distance beats speed. And on the contrary, it also beats power. Good example of that is Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson. He controlled the distance. He was way more accurate. He controlled the pace of the fight. And Mike couldn't get off. What's wrong with losing to Floyd Mayweather? George Foreman lost to Ali. Foreman just admit that Ali is the man. Facts. Doesn't hurt his legacy at all. I don't know why they make a big deal out of it. How in the world is Pacquiao's legacy better than Mayweather's? Well, that's a question you got to ask Cristiano, man. He's the one that said it, not me. Now that the fight is off, Spence needs to recover and make the fight with Bud Crawford after Bud eviscerates Porter. Floyd was a better boxer, and they can't accept that fact. Oh, they definitely can't. Tom Brady will get the nod for sure, but Peyton has his own legacy. It's just like Manny and Floyd beat Manny's ass, period. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Peyton Manning is always going to be regarded as one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would imagine that he probably beats Tom Brady in a few categories. I'm not sure if it's yards or passes completed or what it may be, but he may have an upper hand somewhere. But at the end of the day, Tom is going to get the nod, man, when it's all said and done. Like all these Super Bowl rings and all the things that he's accomplished and playing until he's 65 years old. Like, that's why I keep telling people, Pacquiao and Spence, man, win or lose, it don't matter. He's 42. If he wins, it's amazing. He shocks the world. If he loses, it's like you lost to a younger, stronger champion. Like, you've had your time, Pacquiao. You had your time. You had your time to shine and be a champion and do it and do your thing. And when the history books are written, you are going to be cemented in the Hall of Fame. Like, do you know how many fighters or how many boxers become professional? And of those fighters who become professional, how many of them make the Hall of Fame? What percentage of boxers actually make the Hall of Fame? Forget about all-time great, because that's another percentile. All-time great to me is, I know you can say top 200, top 100, top 50. But what about the top 20? The top 20 boxers of all time. You're talking a less than 1% of all boxers from fucking 1890 until 2021, right? Less than 1% make it to that upper echelon of boxing. And then you have the top the top 50, the top 100, and then that percentage slightly increases, but it's still like less than 2% of all the boxers who lace up gloves and become professionals throughout history, right? And then you have the Hall of Famers. There are Hall of Famers who may not even crack the top 100, but for their era and what they did in their career, they can still be Hall of Famers. But if you're a Hall of Famer, you're still within that top 3, 4, 5%. So you have already done what majority of professional boxers can never do. So what are you crying about? You crying because Floyd is 50-0? Because he broke Rocky Marciano's record? Does that hurt you? Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, Pacquiao. You had losses and you've been knocked out before you even faced Floyd. So that's just what it is. Stormy B in the building. What's good, man? What's good, Stormy B? B-Man. Stormy B-Man. Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, and I know that there are certain people probably lurking in and they can't comment because you got to be subscribed to the channel to comment. This has nothing to do with Earl Spence ducking the fight. Like, as I said before, I understand the frustration. I really do. I'm frustrated too. Everybody in this chat right now, everybody listening right now is frustrated. As a boxing fan, we are frustrated because we were all looking forward to this fight. It's a big fight, man. A really big fight. A lot on the table, a lot to win, a lot to claim. And it was the gateway to a possible final unification, undisputed welterweight champion, which is what the ultimate goal is as boxing fan, is to witness it in our lifetime, an undisputed champion in a certain weight class. And that's why I get so hyped up about Wilder and Fury, because Wilder beats Fury, Wilder fights Joshua, beats Joshua, he becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And he takes the belts back to Alabama, which is in America. We have an American undisputed heavyweight champion. It's been a hot minute since we've had that. We've had champions, but undisputed, all the belts. Because this is stuff that we tell our grandchildren about. You understand me? That we can say we lived during a period of time where this fighter was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. This fighter was the undisputed middleweight, undisputed welterweight. We were able to witness this. This is history in the making. So I understand that Pacquiao fans are so upset because they feel like Pacquiao is 42. He doesn't have much time left, and he could have ended his career with a big bang, right? In their head, they're thinking he'll beat Spence, he'll take the belts from Spence, then he'll fight Bud, he'll beat Bud, and he can retire and set off into the sunset and retire as the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, and it'll be a beautiful story. So I get that part. But Earl Spence's eye is torn. Health is first. Family is first. If Pacquiao tore his eyeball out of his socket, I would be saying the same thing. I'm disappointed, but this stuff happens. And I want to make it abundantly clear that when you have a situation where you have a pre-fight test examination, then you have not one but several doctors have told Earl that, he shouldn't fight. Then Earl said he's going to go have surgery, which I believe he's having surgery today. So you have basically 3 alleyways of accountability there. And I'm glad that Stormy B just put this comment in here. Come on, man. Earl has an eye retinal injury and is ducking. But Fury faked COVID-19, and that wasn't a duck? Parading around in the public with no mask and all his sparring partners denying they had it? You can't compare an eye retinal injury and a supposed contraction of a virus. There's a big issue with that. And, look, Stormy B, we knew it was coming. Especially channels like ours, me, you, and a lot of people in the LDBC. I don't necessarily affiliate or claim to be in the LDBC, but more or less, I knew that we were going to be attacked and say, "Oh, you guys were attacking Fury. You guys were saying that he was ducking, and now are you gonna hold that same accountability with Spence?" It's not the same. It's not the same. The man's eye has been torn. If he fights, he may go blind. And as I told people in this chat, and it seems like Bolsero has already dropped out because he can't take the heat, but we got another one, Mr. Sky. He's a notorious Pacquiao supporter. Spence didn't want the smoke and can't deal with the smoke. How can you have your eye torn when you have a big headgear and big gloves in sparring? You don't know anything about boxing. I don't know who you're listening to, but fighters get injuries in sparring all the time. But here's the issue, Sky. There are 2 parts of the body that is what I like to call a no-fly zone. If you injure an eye or your neck or any part of your spinal cord, could be your back as well, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, a doctor is not going to allow you to fight. We ain't talking about a toe. We ain't talking about a finger. We ain't talking about a hyperextended knee or a hyperextended elbow, or you've been having hand problems. A fighter can go blind. And to answer your question about headgear and big gloves, headgear doesn't protect your fucking eye. You can wear headgear and still get your nose busted, still get knocked out, still get hit square up in the eyeball, in the eye socket. Only thing headgear does is pretty much help prevent against cuts. So your eyebrows don't get cut open, or your forehead, or you don't have headbutts and things like that. There has been debates about headgear for a very long time. And one of the debates have always been is that Some coaches don't even like to use headgear during sparring because they feel like it gives boxers a false sense of security. And they actually get hit harder and take more damage because they do wear headgear. They're less cautious. But if you're seriously going to sit up here and act like you can't get your eye torn with headgear and big gloves on, then we got nothing to talk about. We literally have nothing to talk about, and you're just here trolling. I can't believe people come up with this shit. Who do you listen to? As a healthcare professional, I see people fuck up their eye from playing football. Eye is no joke, man. I don't play around with that. And if he ignores medical advice and goes into the ring and gets punched straight in the eye and goes blind, what are these Pacquiao fans going to do? Are they going to go and support his medical bills? Are they going to show up to the hospital and give Spence his credits and, tell him that they feel bad for him? And no, they don't care because they want their man to win. Even Pacquiao has the decency to go on and say, or go on Twitter and say, hey, I wish you a speedy recovery, Earl Spence. Your own fighter, Sky, is trying to lead by example, and you're too stupid to even follow the fighter that you support and his example and being humble and being polite. You want to be disgruntled and be a baby because you ain't getting a fight that you wanted to see. And you making it about ducking and being a coward when all boxing fans on all sides of the fence are suffering right now. This is the problem with boxing. This is why boxing is at where it's at right now, is because we have people like you who continue the divide, who continue to make it as if injuries don't happen, coming up with excuses like, oh, big gloves and headgear. Are you kidding me? People need to pay attention to the news and not the narratives. The NSAC does a full examination of the fighter before the fight. During the examination, EJ was deemed ineligible to fight due to the eye. This is not rocket scientists. This is not rocket science here, people. There is two big differences between Fury and claiming he has COVID and having an eye injury that has been discovered, evaluated by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Multiple sources, like literally all of the major sport networks have reported this. ESPN, Ring TV, all of them. That Earl Spence was examined by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And Earl Spence actually took another step and said, let me get a second or third opinion, flew back to Dallas, and they suggested that, yes, if you fight, you can permanently damage your eye. In other words, you can go blind. As unfortunate as it is, this stuff happens. And when it comes to, I'll say it again, eyes and anything spinal related is a no-fly zone. We have alleyways of accountability here. How could Earl Spence possibly lie and get away with this lie when it has been reported that the Nevada State Athletic Commission has evaluated Earl Spence to have a torn retina in his left eye. Then Earl Spence said that he went to he talked to 3 in total doctors who were all on the same page. So now you have a source of the Nevada Athletic Commission that you can hold accountable. You have these doctors that he supposedly talked to hold accountable. And he said that he was going to get surgery. He's getting surgery today. So any media source out there who thinks that Spence is a liar can easily show up post-surgery, find out where he's getting surgery. It's not hard. Earl Spence is the welterweight champion of the world. It ain't hard to find out whether he's truly getting surgery or not and what hospital that is. And as soon as he makes it out of the recovery room, get a statement from him and find out how the surgery went, whether it was successful or not. How could you possibly lie about an eye injury? Now, we don't even know, FYI, rather it was even due to sparring. We don't know. We're assuming it was. But we don't know, except the fact that his eye is torn. And I'll be honest with you, there's a very good possibility that Earl Spence didn't even know that his retina was torn, that he was having eye issues. I said it before. If you join the live stream later, it's very possible that Earl Spence, he may have had a little bit of pain, a little bit of swelling, maybe some eye redness, maybe a little bit of cloudy vision. But, you're sparring, you're working out, you're taking some shots. Fighters are injured and hurt all the time. People think that fighters are invincible and they never get injured. We don't know half of the injuries that fighters walk into the ring with, and they show how much of a warrior they are and fight regardless. But an eye injury is not something that you can mess around with. It's like those who play with their own buttholes then try to ask, smell my finger. Stormy. So, the fact that EJ is not fighting is due to NSAC saying he cannot. EJ went to 3 other doctors and they said the same thing. So, no fight for now. I mean, that's it. And make sure that when you're coming in here, guys, you guys are hitting that like button right away. Get this message out there because this is something that's happening right now. Like, this is what people are saying. They are attacking Earl Spence's Twitter as I speak. They're calling him all kinds of duckers and cowards and pussies, and you're afraid of a 42-year-old man. And I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy. I mean, here we are right here. Right off the bat, this guy is saying first Crawford did not want to fight Manny, and now it's Earl Spence. They're afraid of a 42-year-old boxer. So disappointed. And people saying, oh, you didn't want to lose that huh? And it's just riddled. I mean, you guys can go down. You got memes coming in here. Look at this meme. Sparring injury. I thought boxers didn't do hard sparring 1 week before the fight. Listen, dummies. Just because he got an eye injury doesn't mean that he was sparring yesterday or the day before or at the beginning of this week. He could have got that injury 2 weeks ago and didn't even know. That's why you have a pre-fight examination, because doctors will find things wrong with you that you may or may not know about. That's exactly why they do it. But Earl Spence is just being attacked and riddled with these comments of ducking and coward, and this is literally why, as I said, boxing is in the state that it's in. This is very well could have existed without Earl knowing of the injury until they checked him out. Exactly. Yeah. WJ says Floyd has been recognized as arguably the best to do it. No one ever makes the argument that Manny is the best. Floyd fought and beat fighters Manny never fought too. Yeah, and if you want to get technical, Pacquiao fought a lot of Floyd's leftovers. Ricky Hatton, Shane Mosley, a few examples. Freddie Ruger, retina injury actually happens within a week. You will notice the difference. Big dog. Okay, so it had to be sparring. Yeah. It can happen sometimes when you sleep, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean, this is nothing to play with. It's nothing to play with. And I'm not sure if from the car accident, actually, if you guys go back and look at Earl Spence's picture soon after his car accident, he had one eye. I'm not sure if it's left eye or not, but it was all red and bloodshot. Like he definitely had eye damage from his car accident. And I don't know if this also played a role, in sparring and just getting hit in that right spot, and it flared up again, and he had issues. But I mean, are we forgetting that Earl Spence was involved in a severe car accident that could have killed this man? That could have killed him? Oh, but he's a coward, right? Okay. Yeah, so I got the picture right here. Um, let's bring it up real quick. So this is Earl Spence after his car accident. But it looks like it's his right eye. But you see his right eye is all like swollen and red. So I guess this time it was his left eye. But I mean, let's please not forget that Earl Spence was involved in a potentially like life-ending accident. It's an absolute miracle that he walked away from it. And I believe this picture is like literally right after. And this is the man that you're calling a coward. This is the man that you're calling a ducker. If you ask me, this man is blessed, and he knows he's blessed. And when you walk away from a car accident like this, and you walk away pretty much, with all of your fingers and toes and hands and legs and arms and no brain damage and no internal injuries, basically some big bumps and big bruises and scrapes, and you walk away from an accident like that, oh, trust me, you're going to become much more humble and much more aware of your health. And if you got an eye injury that has been evaluated by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, you're going to listen. And I know exactly how Earl Spence is feeling because I had a terrible motorcycle accident about 10 years ago, going about, I don't know, about 80 miles an hour. And another car pulled out in front of me, and I hit the back of the car, and I went flying like 50 yards, 60 yards, tumbling. I hit the ground so hard that my helmet just basically flew off. And, thank the gods that I was able to walk away from it with just like a lot of, very, very painful road rash and a lot of cuts and bruises, and it actually twisted my pelvis up about 2 to 3 degrees, and it took me a long time to walk again properly. But that shit humbled me. You know what I mean? That changed my life, and that changed everything on how I look and respect um, my life and my loved ones. And when your life flashes before your eyes like that, you don't get a second chance a lot of times. That's a message. Take heed. You're blessed. They're asking for his proof of injury, but Fury and Teofimo don't have to show proof of COVID. Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that they're even comparing it is stupid. The fact that there's even a comparison of the two is stupid. What do they want him to do? They want him to go live in the surgery room? You want him to go live on Twitter while he's like getting his retina reattached? Would that suffice? Would that make you feel better? After I've already said that once the surgery's done, you best believe the media is going to be tracking Earl Spence down or somebody on his team to get a post-surgery report. Guys, you just can't lie about this, man. Especially when it's coming from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They're the ones who are basically putting their foot down and not allowing this fight to happen. So if you want to get mad at anybody, you got to get mad at them. But even then, you can't get mad at them because they're doing their job. That's their job. To point out discrepancy in fighters' health. You know what I mean? And they probably allow fighters to get away with certain things that maybe they shouldn't. Like, some small hand fractures or hyperextended knees and elbows. I mean, this stuff happens, people. This stuff happens. And Manny Pacquiao has been blessed in his career to have no major injuries and has always been relatively healthy, even though he claimed to have a shoulder injury after the Floyd fight. But that's, I guess, neither here or there. But I'm just saying, maybe Pacquiao's smart enough to realize that, hey, if he's hurt, I hope he gets better. Maybe he's smart enough to realize that he's been lucky in his career to be able to fight at 42 years old and has been relatively healthy. I mean, Pacquiao absorbed a devastating knockout by Marquez. I mean, he was laid flat out on his face. And he was able to walk away from that. You guys remember Jinky Pacquiao after Pacquiao got knocked down like that? She thought her husband was dead. She thought, Marquez killed my husband. The man didn't move for like 30 seconds. So Pacquiao has enough intelligence to be like, yeah, if you injured, then go recover. And it's sad that his fans can't follow suit and follow Pacquiao's lead and direction and saying, hey, guys, this stuff happens. Pacquiao's a fighter. He knows. Ed Rock says, I got irritated when the first press conference they injected Floyd, who is retired. Then Pacquiao's been taking shots at Floyd for being real disrespectful of Floyd. Floyd speaks well of Pac. For the most part, you're right. For the most part, Floyd has always said that Pac is a tremendous fighter. He said on numerous occasions after the fight that, I see why he is where he is today. I see why people like him. He said he understands why he's a fan favorite, and he's been in the ring with him. And he said and made it abundantly clear, like, I get it. Like, I see why he's a multi-time champion. But he ain't better than me. And if we fight 100 times, I beat him 100 times. And you got to understand, Ed, and everybody else in this chat, I've been talking about this for years. Since 2010, I was on this shit telling people, hey, y'all can rant and rave about Pacquiao all you want. His hands are too fast. He's too powerful. His footwork is too fast. He can cut off the ring, and he's going to swarm Mayweather, and he's going to get him on the ropes, and this and that and whatever. I mean, they were coming out with all kinds of shit. But I kept telling people, skills pay the bills. Timing and accuracy controls speed. Timing and accuracy and the ability to dictate the pace of the fight, aka ring generalship, will always subdue power and speed. Why do you think Lennox Lewis was able to beat Mike Tyson the way that he was able to beat him? It wasn't just because Mike was out of his prime. Mike trained for that fight. It may have not been the best Mike Tyson we've ever seen, but he trained for that fight. And Lennox beat him with accuracy, controlling range, and Tyson couldn't get off. But, I mean, you can go back to even before that. We talk about Evander Holyfield and Tyson. Evander Holyfield had the right game plan. And so skills pay the bills. But basically, at the end of the day, it's really not that big of a deal. It does, just because he loses to Mayweather, it doesn't take away his victories against Morales and Barrera and Marquez and Margarito and Cotto and all those other great fighters. The history books are written. So what are you crying about? It's unfortunate that it took 5 years to build up all that animosity and hatred, that when Pacquiao finally did lose, they just still to this day can't let it go. He was running. He was running. He's too scared to fight toe to toe. I want Floyd Mayweather to fight toe to toe. It ain't gonna happen, buddy. And you had 5 years to prepare for it. You knew damn good and well Floyd wasn't gonna fight toe to toe. You can fool your little casual boxing fans, but you can't fool me. Floyd fought that fight in the pocket, but at range. Yeah, man, he controlled the. Well, I mean, he dictated the pace, number one, and he controlled range. And he timed Pacquiao. So look, guys, been going on here for a while now, about an hour and a half. I appreciate everyone that's dropped by and shows support. Hopefully, you guys have all smashed that like button. And look, at the end of the day, man, I've been going on for a while now. Errol Spence is injured. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing. I'm just as disappointed as most of you guys because, you know, I was making videos about this fight. I had videos on deck ready to upload within the next couple of days to continue to hype and build the fight. And now I've got to switch gears. And now I've got to go and do film study on Yugas and make another video and make a prediction of that fight. And, you know, I hate to do it, but, you know, sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do in life, but you got to get it done. You know, and when it comes down to it, I hope that Spence recovers and hopefully we can see him in the early part of 2022. And I feel for his family. I feel for him. I mean, imagine the disappointment that Spence must feel right now. All the training and prepping that he's done, And 10 days before the fight, they tell him, "Oh, you got to sit down. You got to sit this one out." That must be excruciating as a professional and someone who has been wanting this fight for a very long time. Like, Pacquiao fans, don't forget that Errol Spence has been calling out Manny Pacquiao for a long time. This isn't something that just came to fruition on a limb. You know what I mean? Like, Earl's been wanting this fight. He even called out Floyd. And so I just want to make that clear. This hatred of Errol Spence has got to stop, because all this does is continue the divide, and it hurts all boxing fans. So go support your man. He's going to go fight Yugas. Nothing has changed. It's not Errol Spence. Yes. It's kind of like, you want to try to order an espresso and all you get is a watered down iced coffee. I get that. But just got to swallow it, And this is not a situation, like I said, like what Fury tried to pull with the whole COVID situation. It's a completely different situation. So I don't want to hear shit about he was wearing headgear and big gloves, and how do you get your eye injured with headgear and gloves on? Like, I can't have conversations with people who don't know about boxing. Just because you watch Pacquiao and his fights, and you listen to a few channels on here, and you feel educated and you feel smart, and that makes you feel like you know about boxing, it doesn't mean you know about boxing. Like, simply put, because only somebody who doesn't know about boxing would make a dumbass remark and comment like, you can't get your eye injured just because you're wearing headgear. Headgear doesn't protect your eye, dummy. But sometimes I forget I got to come on here and I got to educate these fools. But I've been talking and preaching and educating for years. So in a way, I'm used to it. But I got my triggers, man. I got my triggers. Really? Like, what channels out here are seriously promoting the idea that you can't get your eye injured if you wear headgear and big gloves? And what do you mean by big gloves? Because welterweights are probably sparring with 12-ounce gloves, but I don't care if it's 16-ounce gloves. It don't matter. If you hit it in the right spot, you can get your eye injured. But seriously, what channels out here are spewing this bullshit? Because all you do is continue to put fuel in this fire and putting this false narrative in people's heads, man. YouTube is full of a bunch of people that think they know about boxing because they're being educated by YouTube channels who claim to know everything about boxing, and they're spewing out this horse shit. Because you're a pro Pacquiao channel, and I mean, who is it? Who is it? T Street is some shit like who is it? Who's out there saying this, man? Who's out here spreading these lies and propaganda? Oh, Spence is lying because you can't get your eye damaged in sparring when you're wearing headgear. Like I've already said, headgear is designed to help against headbutts, which happen more than you know, and And it helps with just cuts in general, because you don't want to get a cut before a big fight, right? You get your eyebrow, if you get your eyebrow cut or you get your upper eyelid cut, that within itself can end a fight. Like, as you're preparing for a fight, because it takes a long time for that soft tissue to heal, especially if you got scar tissue there. So it's designed, yes, to protect from cuts and that, but it don't do shit for your brain inside of your skull. And as I already pointed out earlier on this stream, there's a lot of coaches and gyms out there that don't even want their fighters to wear headgear. They would rather promote the idea of pulling their punches back and controlling their power in sparring, because you're going to be more cautious. I, for one, when I spar, when I got headgear on, I'm definitely 20% less cautious. I feel like I can take more. So go do your research. And I appreciate Hammer Time. I'm a pro boxer myself, and I know that headgear is a false sense of security. It only helps against superficial cuts. There you go, guys. There you go, right there. See, Divine Sense Boxing, we talk that real shit out here. Especially when it comes to the stylistic viewpoint of boxing. I personally don't like to get involved with the politics of boxing and all these disappointments and whatever, because I feel like I'm a battered woman, and so I try to not allow my mind to get wrapped up into it too much. I hear it, I'll talk about it. Like today, I make this video, I let people come in and chat about it because I feel like it's the right thing to do, because I know a lot of my subscribers want to hear my thoughts. But what we're not going to do is come up in here and bullshit about the stylistic viewpoint of boxing and say some dumb shit like, oh, you can't get your eye injured if you're wearing headgear. Stormy, I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's a first one for me. That's literally a first one for me. People still get shot wearing bulletproof vest gear, right? And people die even though they're wearing a bulletproof vest. Straight up. Floyd is retired. Pacquiao should never have been salty that Floyd never gave him a rematch. That's why so much was riding on Spence. Yeah, I was saying earlier in this live stream, if you came in late, that for Pacquiao fans and Pacquiao himself, because Pacquiao said in the press conference with Earl Spence that, hey, Earl Spence is better than Mayweather because Earl Spence will fight toe-to-toe. And Mayweather's a runner. And, I just think Earl Spence is better in that regard. He's going to make the fight more exciting. And the very first video that I made about Earl Spence and Manny Pacquiao, I pointed that out in my video. And then I went on, it was like the beginning part of my video, maybe I talked about it for a couple of minutes on how this fight is just more than legacy for Pacquiao. This has a lot to do with Floyd Mayweather, because Pacquiao himself and his fans, obviously, have never truly accepted the loss to Floyd Mayweather. It doesn't sit well with them. And if they beat, I'm saying they because, Pacquiao and his fans are kind of one and the same a lot of times, unfortunately. But if Pacquiao beats Spence, he can somehow level the loss that he attained against Mayweather, because he beat a young, hungry champion and he beat a guy that Floyd never fought. So in a way, it's a legacy fight because he beats a young champion and takes Spence's belts. And he fights a guy that a lot of people accuse Floyd of ducking. So this is why Pacquiao fans are truly upset about this fight being canceled. And it looks bad because it's only 10 days before the fight is happening. And so they don't know what else to do but panic and accuse Errol Spence for ducking. But believe me when I say that if Pacquiao beat Floyd Mayweather and the Errol Spence fight is canceled, well, first off, if he beat Mayweather, there's a good chance that Pacquiao would have retired, when he retired a couple of years ago. And we would have never had this Errol Spence fight. But I feel like he's literally fighting Errol Spence for two reasons. Number one, because it is a legacy fight. But number two is because what I just mentioned is because it gives him an opportunity to fight a guy that Floyd never fought. And how it can somehow relinquish his loss to Floyd Mayweather. So if he beat Mayweather, there's a big possibility that this fight would have never happened anyway. And even if it did, and the fight was canceled the way that it has been canceled, Pacquiao fans won't have this tune. They'll be like, oh, that sucks, but that's okay because he's still the greatest because he beat Mayweather anyway. That's the tune that they'll have. But the simple fact that he lost to Mayweather, it doesn't sit well with them. They can't let it go. And when I said what I said in my video about Floyd being a part of this Pacquiao Spence saga, the dislike button was going berserk. Even though it was a 15-minute video and they probably listened to that first 2 minutes and they lost their fucking minds and they went and just disliked my video. It went berserk. And luckily, we had some smart and intelligent people to kind of level off the dislikes with likes. But, that just proves it to you that I spent 12 minutes breaking down the fight stylistically, being completely honest about everything. But because those first 2 minutes I mentioned Floyd, they're just gonna dislike my video, and probably didn't listen to anything else. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and pull it up right now. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, and you'll see for yourself the amount of dislikes that it got. And this was when I was first coming back to YouTube. My first video was about Deontay and Fury. My second video was Pacquiao Spence. And I wasn't prepared. And I thought, shit, the fight between Pacquiao and Mayweather was 6 years ago. I thought, well, surely they'll be gone by now. Oh, no. Still alive and well. Alive and well. Yo, what up? It's your boy Divine. You know what time it is. It's time to talk about that boxing. Talk about a real fight. A real fight is coming up August 21st. Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao. Well, you see right here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says 67 dislikes. That shit's crazy. 67. I mean, this video's got over 4,000 views, right? But 60,000. Sorry, 67. Sorry, 67 dislikes. It's crazy. A lot of you, I would assume, are coming to this video right now because you want to hear my prediction. Is there another person on YouTube who thinks Errol Spence is going to win or Manny Pacquiao is going to win? But I would advise you, grab your coffee, grab your tea, because that's what we do on this channel is we talk about that sweet science. We break down fights. We talk about fights, in and out, behind the scenes, behind the gloves, all that shit. So casuals beware. I'll get to my prediction, but we're going to talk about this fight. Now, when it comes to Earl Spence, Manny Pacquiao, there's a lot more to this fight than just old lion versus young lion battling out. Old lion trying to re-seek some glory and the young lion trying to prove himself. Originally, I wasn't too intrigued about this fight for, the most basic reasons. Is Pacquiao doing this because he needs some money? Is Pacquiao doing this because, he's just trying? Let me go ahead and find the part where I mentioned Floyd. Trying to reclaim a little bit of, and I didn't really pay too much mind to it until I started thinking about it. Until I was talking to some people about it. I thought, you know what? This fight is more interesting than what I initially thought. First, let's talk a little bit about Manny Pacquiao. And I want to put this out there right off the bat because I feel like it's important. So check this. I give, before I even mention anything, this is how crazy Pacquiao fans can be. Before I even mention anything about Floyd, and we're currently a minute and 45 seconds in the video. All right. So if you've watched it up until this point, a minute and 45, you're pretty much, you're invested in the video, you're listening. And what I'm going to say here is I go into like this monologue of another 30 seconds of me giving praise to Pacquiao to make it clear that this is not me bashing Pacquiao, and all that. So you'll hear it. But they still got to dislike my shit. Those of you who know me, who've been around a long time, know how I get down. And I've been through some real epic battles when it comes to Manny Pacquiao. Let me tell you. And my whole YouTube journey started talking about Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget the very first video I dropped was in 2009. I believe it was after one of Mayweather's victories. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. And from that moment on, all the way up until the point that Mayweather and Pacquiao fought, it was battle beyond any battle that you can ever imagine. And then they finally fought. And the result was exactly what I said it was going to be for the 7-8 years that we talked about it, fighting about it, cussing each other out about it. The point I'm trying to make here is that regardless of all those years where I always took Mayweather over Pacquiao, and you can see that the Pacquiao fans, they're probably already starting to get pissed off because they're starting to see that I took Floyd over Pacquiao. I always had the utmost respect for Manny Pacquiao as a fighter. He's a future Hall of Famer. And I respect him. But I'm giving him credit. Abilities and his skills. So I'm giving him credit. I had the utmost respect for Manny Pacquiao as a fighter. He's a future Hall of Famer. And I respect him and his abilities and his skills. Because as a true boxing fan, you may have your favorite fighter, but you respect any man who laces up those gloves and steps through those ropes. And Manny Pacquiao is one of those. So I want to put that out there. Now, moving on. When it comes to Manny Pacquiao, and this kind of segues into or loops into why I brought up Mayweather as well, because believe it or not, Mayweather does play a role in this fight. For Pacquiao, it's much more than I'm 42 years old and I'm going to try to prove to the world that I can still fight. I think most people know that he can still fight. Doesn't matter who he's going to fight. He's going to put up a fight. But for Pacquiao, it's more than that. There's one thing that scratches at his soul, and that is the fact that he lost to Mayweather. And he knows that he'll never get the chance to go back into the ring and avenge that. There was a lot of controversy after the fight, his shoulder and the scorecards, and he has said multiple times, repeatedly, that he felt that he won the fight, even though 80%, if not more, of ringside observers, boxing experts all said Mayweather won convincingly. It is so. Yeah, they didn't like that part, obviously. And the cool thing about YouTube is that you can actually go and see the analytics and actually see how long people watch your videos, even those who dislike your videos. And the average for the people who dislike my video was around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Where I just paused it right now is 4 minutes and 48. So literally, I give Pacquiao credit, then I say something they don't like because I mentioned Floyd or whatever, and they dislike my video and leave and exit my video. But this video was put up like almost 2 months ago. Now the fight between Pacquiao and Spence has been canceled, and now we see them starting to act out and get upset and accuse Earl Spence of being a coward and a ducker and all this stuff. But I mentioned this about Floyd 2 months ago, and it still rings true. And if you've been in this chat long enough, like Felix has been in here, I believe Felix has been in here since the beginning, and a few others possibly. We had a couple of Pacquiao fans jump in here, and they're gone. They're history. Because they can't take the heat. They can't take the truth. But I just wanted to share that with you guys, and the whole video is up on my channel. It's called Manny Pacquiao versus Earl Spence Breakdown and Prediction Part 1. You guys check it out if you guys want to listen to it, if you guys haven't listened to it yet. But I just wanted to prove it to you guys that, I talked about this 2 months ago, about why Floyd is relevant in this fight. And we see that now. Because of how angry they are that this fight is canceled, that they automatically just start blaming Earl Spence. Because they can't let it go. They had an opportunity to witness Pacquiao beat Spence, which then somehow relinquishes his loss against Floyd Mayweather. So, just wanted to share that with you guys as I get ready to close down this stream. But like I said, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Like I said, some of you guys have been in this stream since 2 hours ago. Big respect for that. And I just wanted to come out here and give you guys my thoughts, regarding the fight being postponed, or not, sorry, canceled, rather. I wish it was postponed. But yeah, I just wanted to say my thoughts about it, give my personal and professional opinion in regards to, Earl Spence and his eye injury, and whether it's legit or not. Is definitely legit. Unfortunate, but legit. And I guess the next step now is to, talk about Pacquiao Ugas and let you guys know what I think about that fight. I'll talk about that fight more in detail. And I need to sit back and think about what this means for the welterweight division now. I'm not too sure, with Spence out of the picture for a questionable amount of time, what Bud Crawford's going to do, if he's going to wait around and wait for Spence or fight the winner of Pacquiao Ugas, or he's going to fight Porter, if Danny Garcia is going to jump in and do something, if Thurman's going to be a role player in this whole saga. It's all kind of murky right now. But we still have a date, August 21st. Pacquiao's still going to fight, and he's got to get past Ugas. I don't think it's an easy out, but Nonetheless, I'll talk more detail. I'll probably drop a video about it, a 5 to 10 minute video breaking down the fight as I usually do. We got Rigondeaux fighting, so that's something to look forward to. I always enjoy watching Rigondeaux, and then of course October 9th. We've suffered quite a lot as boxing fans this year. We've suffered a lot, and that just makes the victory even more sweet when Deontay Wilder knocks out Tyson Fury on October 9th, which is near the end of the year, and we just got to keep our heads up, man. I know it's tough sometimes being a boxing fan, but if you're a true ardent supporter of the sweet science and you want to see great things come from the sport, we just got to hold our heads up high and let our voices flow and continue to speak the truth and just do the best we can as boxing fans to see the best from the sport. And trust me, I understand. You know, when we see the things that happens to Michael Fox and these false COVID reports from fighters and fights being postponed and UFC's doing their thing, and it sheds a bad light, a negative light on boxing, and they constantly poke fun at us and as boxing fans. But, you know, we got to stick together, unify, and keep it as positive as we possibly can. And hopefully 2022 will be a better year full of great fights, and maybe we'll have a unified and undisputed champion in the welterweight and the middleweight division at the very least, and possibly even the heavyweight division. But that's what I try to do, man. That's what I try to do. I try to focus on the positive as much as I can, be as optimistic as possible, try to keep out as much negativity. And we had some negativity in the stream today. We had some idiotic comments. You know, my trigger point was reached. So I apologize for the shouting and getting irate, but you know, it happens sometimes. But thank you guys so much. Just K, thanks for dropping by. You're catching the end of the stream here, but I appreciate you stopping by and commenting. Moped was good, man. You missed the stream. Make sure you go back and watch it. As I mentioned earlier, it got pretty heated in here, man. We had some dumbasses in here saying some dumb shit. So it's entertaining. If you want to go back and watch the entire stream, it'll be uploaded as usual. Do you know how much the pay-per-view will be now that Spence is out? That's a good question. I would imagine that it's going to be somewhat the same because the date hasn't changed. The venue hasn't changed. It's really like just a substitute. So I would imagine if you bought tickets for Spence Pacquiao, it'll be able, you can use it for the Pacquiao Ugas fight. Going forward, buying the pay-per-view, I don't think it'll decrease. I don't think it will, because they've already invested so much time and money promoting Pacquiao Spence that they don't want to decrease the money. And, you know, they'll probably within the next 3 or 4 days probably make a promotional video and try to revert people's attention. They're going to try to build up Ugas as much as they possibly can to make the fight interesting. But like I said earlier, it's going to be hard because it's like, you know, going to Starbucks and asking for a Frappuccino and then just getting a melted down iced coffee. But that's the dish we've been dealt, and we just gotta deal with it. So I'll be on here, man, talking about the Pacquiao Ugas fight and talk a little bit more about the welterweight division. And on that note, last thing I'll say here is I'm going to go ahead and put this banner on the screen. Anybody that wants to jump on the show, this is my email right here, divinesensereborn@gmail.com. And if you want to jump on the show at any point, send me an email, because a lot of times, you know, I have a plan. I come on here and talk about certain topics, and I know people want to jump in, but I don't like to give links because sometimes it distracts me from doing what I want to do. But if you email me, then I can make it happen and we can schedule it, and I can bring you on the show and we can chop it up. And one of the topics that I'd like to talk about is just the welterweight division and its status and what it's going to be or what we would like it to be in the future. That's a cool topic that I would like to talk about. So I'll go ahead and leave the email in the comment section as well. So it'll be easier for you to copy and paste if you do want to email me. So there it is. If you have interest to be on soon, just send me an email. We can make it happen. But I appreciate you guys. I respect you guys for dropping in. As always, make sure you've hit that like button before you exit the stream. Every like goes a long way. Helps get the message out there. Helps grow the channel. I appreciate you guys. I'll be back on here very soon. Peace.